Freedom of speech, freedom of the press. These principles are the bedrock of democratic society. They allow us to voice our thoughts, challenge authority, and shape our future. But this right wasn't always guaranteed. Today, we'll take a journey through the history of these freedoms, their significance in Canada, and why they are the most important rights we hold. The concept of free speech traces back to ancient civilizations where philosophers like Socrates questioned authority and in turn paid the ultimate price. But it wasn't until the 17th century that the modern idea of freedom of the press took shape. The invention of the printing press in 1440 sparked the spread of ideas and with it the challenge to the status quo. Rulers feared the power of the written word as it could sway public opinion, expose corruption and inspire revolution. In 1689, the English Bill of Rights cemented the right to free speech for citizens, and this would later inspire democratic nations worldwide. In Canada, the journey towards free speech and freedom of the press was shaped by both the nation's colonial past and its growing desire for self-governance. From the early days of British rule, Canadian newspapers and pamphlets played a crucial role in challenging authority and rallying support for Confederation. One key figure in this battle for press freedom was Joseph Howe, a prominent journalist, politician, and advocate for the free press. In the 1830s, Howe became embroiled in a significant legal battle after publishing articles critical of the government of Nova Scotia. The government, in a bid to silence him, charged Howe with seditious libel. But Howe fought back, using the courtroom as a platform for his belief in the freedom of the press. Joseph Howe, the right to publish is the right to freedom itself. In a landmark trial, Howe successfully defended himself, arguing that the press was essential to the functioning of democracy and that censorship was incompatible with freedom. His victory not only marked a turning point in Canadian history, but also established a precedent for press freedom in the country. Following Howe's victory, Canada began to establish its own understanding of free speech and press freedom. However, the battle didn't end there. Throughout the late 19th and early 20th centuries, debates over censorship, media control, and press independence continued to shape Canadian society. In Canada, freedom of speech is not absolute. It comes with certain limitations like hate speech laws and defamation protections designed to balance rights with the public good. But the right to express one's views remains fundamental. Without it, no other rights can thrive. Freedom of speech fuels democracy, allowing individuals to challenge government policies, advocate for change, and hold those in power accountable. It encourages diverse voices from minority groups to activists to ensure all citizens can participate in conversations that shape their lives. It supports education and growth by fostering open debates, allowing ideas to be tested, refined, and challenged. Freedom of speech is the cornerstone of equality and justice. Without it, social change would be stifled and progress would be impossible. Across the globe, the fight for free speech has been hard-won and remains an ongoing struggle. In countries like China, Russia, and Iran, governments continue to stifle dissent and censor the press, sometimes with deadly consequences. In China, the government's tight control over the internet and media prevents citizens from accessing information critical of the state. Journalists face harassment, imprisonment, and worse. In Russia, media outlets that oppose the government are often silenced or taken over by state-run entities. Reporters are forced into exile or face arrest for reporting on sensitive issues like corruption. And in Iran, journalists face violence, arrest, and even execution for speaking out against government policies. Despite these challenges, journalists and activists around the world continue to fight for freedom of expression, knowing it is the key to advancing human rights. Why is freedom of speech the most important right in society? Because no other right can survive without it. Without the freedom to speak out, we cannot challenge corruption, injustice, or inequality. Without the freedom to express ideas, we cannot create change, advance science, or support democracy. Without the freedom to question authority, we cannot hold those in power accountable. Jean-Jacques Rousseau said, "When liberty is taken away by force, it can be restored by war." but when it is relinquished by default, it can never be recovered. Freedom of speech empowers us to shape society, to challenge our collective beliefs, and to pave the way for a more just world. In Canada, we are fortunate to live in a society where freedom of speech is protected, but it is up to each of us to preserve this right and ensure that the voices of all Canadians are heard. From the challenges of our own history to the struggles of those still fighting for their basic freedoms today, the fight for expression remains as vital as ever. In the end, the right to speak freely is not just about individual freedom, it's about the strength of our collective democracy.